Just about.
I just started it.
Nice.
All right, welcome back to what's our name again? Raw Time Champ, everyone.
It says the A7
So
in the corner.
yeah, we're gonna have to rename our Skype thing. But Calvin can't make it today, but you're stuck with the three of us. So I think Matt's got some listener questions for us to go through, and we'll answer them as best we can.
Yeah. All right. New shooters, what do you look forward to, or what do you particularly pay attention to when you're evaluating their skills? Provided that any of us have been watching new shooters lately.
So it's funny. My last match was actually a like kind of new shooters match. I feel like it depends. If I'm just like randomly watching them, then I just try to make sure I'm not going to get shot. But if I'm like watching them for skills, I feel like I try to see how mechanically competent they are. Like, you ever watch someone and they're like really clumsy?
Like fumbling around with the reload, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think a thing I look for is, and this is something that I actually ran into myself. First time I ever took a serious USPSA training class. The instructor said to me, "I can tell who dry fires and who doesn't," and I was like, "Oh no." It's a kind of a thing that I can see. I can see with new shooters as well. Like, there's new shooters I practice and new shooters I do not practice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it as like a motivation kind of bias or what?
No, I mean, I feel like there's a threshold of skill that you hit kind of the wall of your ability to to execute on, like, but like that's a conceptual, like your knowledge of concepts takes you up to a certain level, but people generally don't hit that wall very fast because they just straight up don't practice. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if like gun far or away from your body for reloads. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't practice.
Mm-hmm.
I get what you mean, yeah.
So I guess I look for that proficiency, like if they're practicing or not, because they're the people that are definitely like just shoot matches and stuff, and that's their practice. They don't dry fire, they don't live fire practice, they don't do any of that other stuff, and so um, I guess I see how much they've been mechanically training, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, I see it as motivation because we've seen some people in our area, like they shot the beginner match that we had like back in 2021. There were some that were like really motivated and they're like, hey, I found this game. I really want to do well. Like, it may have taken them a couple of years or maybe almost no time at all, but like they chased after it with dry fire. They were actively looking for some kind of feedback from the outside that they weren't understanding themselves, and they just went after it. So I think for me, I look for motivation. Connor?
So yeah, I took this question as like if you're helping a new person. And so I think that's two different answers for me. Like, if I see someone, this is, pretty common, right, for us. Someone at a match is new and they might ask, hey, what do you think I should do better or whatever. So usually if they're new, they can make some like really obvious, really easy to implement like strategical changes and like cut their stage times in half without making the shooting any harder. Usually it makes the shooting easier. And so sometimes, like, if I'm at a match, I usually tell people like that stuff, like, don't pick a totally stupid stage plan or, whatever, right? It's just like the stuff that you kind of get the hang of after a few USPSA matches. If you spoon feed that to them, they can just start doing that immediately. And then if it's like during practice, I think the things that I like immediately look at are, as they're shooting, does the gun slide around in their hands? Like, do they have like some fundamental grip issue that they should start working on? And that's probably the most common. And then I guess depending on how new they are, like if you're standing there doing slow fire and you can watch them push the gun around as they pull the trigger, then that, you can bring their attention to that and kind of help them get through that. Yeah, so that's probably, like, if we're talking new shooters, those would be the two like immediate things I would look at, just to get them to hit where they're aiming.
Basically, just the basic fundamental marksmanship stuff.
Yeah. Or I guess if they're like a half decent shooter, but they're new to USPSA, then maybe look at things like target transitions, or trying to be efficient with movement and things like that. But usually, I think, I'm trying to even think of an example of that. But I think usually it's more like the basic marksmanship stuff that makes a big difference.
I get points somehow. Next question.
Yeah.
All right. So, the rise of cheap 2011s on the rise. Now that this isn't exactly a cheap 2011 that I'm showing on screen.
I thought you were saying that was a cheap 2011. I'm like,
oh,
bro,
dude,
did
no.
you win the lottery?
No, I borrowed this from Taco Calvin. But like cheap 2011, so like we've seen some of the Turkish ones. We have the Springfield Prodigy and all that kind of stuff. Do you expect there to be a decent increase in limited optics?
It's already bigger than I expected it to be honest.
Right.
Like I would have expected maybe a 10% increase, because it's like, hey, I'm not spending necessarily $2,000 or $3,000. It's like, hey, you know what? It's a little bit more expensive, but it's a different toy. It's around the same price as a Shadow 2. So yeah, let's just mess around with something, right?
Yeah, I don't know if. I guess that has to do with 2011s. That's probably going to be the predominant guns there. But the benefit limited optics has is you can also shoot like a carry optics gun and be competitive as well. So it would not surprise me to see that division continue to grow, but we'll see.
Boy,
I'm torn. I don't think 2011s are cheap. How cheap are we talking about?
Like below $2,500.
Is that cheap to you guys?
That's not cheap to me, but like that's cheap compared to traditional 2011s.
I feel like it's hard to beat. It's hard to displace like the double single Tanfo Shadow for like $1,000. I I'm surprised limited optics is as big as it is, but I don't think like it's a carry optics takeover situation.
Do we know any ballpark numbers of the people that are shooting limited optics, what types of guns they're shooting? Because maybe 3/4 of those people are still just shooting their carry optics guns. I don't know.
it's mostly carry optics guns. I think it's like at least half.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily know what to make of that little factoid, but it's kind of an interesting number.
There's a couple of Tanfo dudes that some of them have single action conversions. Others are just slapping on magwells and that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, let's just chase after another G card or run away from CO kind of thing.
Is this where we complain about like the dilution of USPSA? Or no?
I feel like I do that every time we discuss things like this. So sure, let's do it again.
I think it was just to fill up another nationals.
Okay.
All right.
What do we got next?
Kind of multi-gun, 3-gun timeout mechanism. So like you hit, let's just say like 2 minutes, 3 minutes on a stage, and then that's like that time is your score. Do you think that's a good mechanic, or does it necessarily matter?
So it exists in USPSA, right?
Your timeout mechanic is the 2 minutes to fix the malfunction.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So it kind of exists.
But effectively, once you pass 1 minute, that's more or less a zero.
So like with hit, so they have like don't they do time plus and not hit factor, right? So like their scoring is actually the exact time. So if like you time out a stage, you literally get like the highest score. The highest time possible assigned to that stage, and it's like lowest wins, like golf or something, right?
Yeah, it's like you get 180 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, so I couldn't even. how would you even calculate that? Like a minimum hit factor for to just get kicked off the stage or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah.
that's what it would come down to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe on some 3-gun, I don't know. I'm not a 3-gun person, as you guys know, but I get maybe that's sometimes necessary on a 3-gun stage so that people aren't there literally all day. But
Yeah, let's keep the match going for sure.
yeah, I think the underlying problem there is not whether or not you should have some sort of max time. It's like, why are we making stages where that's even a question? That would be my gut feeling. I imagine most 3-gun people probably would not agree with that opinion, but
I know. I mean, I don't shoot 3-gun a lot, but I think I know why they have it.
So
They
everyone's
have
up
stuff
there
that's
all
like
day.
pretty reasonable shooting challenges, but I think there's a bigger skill disparity in 3-gun. Like
between
there's
the
very
top and the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll get like enough people that like can't hit the same exact. So there's this target arrangement where they spin a set of plates, like 2 plates, and they spin it around.
Oh,
There's people that like can't hit the same spot like 10 times in a row or something like that. And so instead of making everyone else at the match wait for like 7 minutes for this person to run out of ammo or spin the plates, they're like, nope, 2 minutes is all you get for the entire stage, and that's that.
I mean, I
Sorry.
guess like there's people that'll go to war with a plate rack or something in a USPSA match, but I mean,
more of a
usually if
match.
that happens, they start to at a certain point they'll just bail on that target,
Yeah.
So I guess that's not as much of a thing in 3-gun, or people bring more ammo to 3-gun matches.
More ammo, and they definitely do go to war and stuff. I don't know. I haven't shot that many of them, honestly. Like maybe
Yeah.
2, 3.
That's interesting that you think there's a bigger skill difference between like the guy who wins and the guy who comes in last. I don't know what to make of that. That's just interesting.
I just see it as a match management kind of thing.
Yeah, I would actually. So just to take a hard left on this one, I would love if we had something like that, but for Make Ready.
So more or less, Ipsen
Where's
is
Calvin?
like, hey,
so
there-
since Calvin's not on the call, fuck Calvin and his like 6-minute Make Ready.
Hey, I can't even talk because there was this one time, it was when Calvin made master. He needed a whatever score on this classifier, and he
Yeah.
took the longest make ready. And I don't really usually care about that stuff, but he was like long enough that even I noticed. I was like, oh my god, and I was gonna just give him a hard time if he didn't make master, but
Yeah.
he shot the score he needed to shoot and made it. Just always thought that was funny.
That's funny. Yeah, like the example that immediately comes to mind is like Can You Count? And
yeah,
so Can You Count, if you're gonna shoot it for a G card, right? You're shooting it like 3 seconds aggregate, right? But you see
Yeah.
motherfuckers doing like 3-minute make readies on Can You Count on both strings, you know what I mean? I'm
Well,
like,
even
can
if you
guys-
do a pretty abbreviated make ready, you're still probably going to be making, or you're 100% going to be making ready longer than you're going to be shooting.
Yeah.
Even if you do a quick one.
Yep. That's just crazy. I like just like hard left there. But that's one of my pet peeves though.
So the real
I get-
question is not would you draw a line or not. It's where would you draw the line on
Yeah,
make ready. That's the real question.
30
We
seconds.
talking
make
30
ready,
seconds or what?
30 seconds make ready, 1 minute stage.
What's the IPSC version of it that they don't allow air gunning, right? Is that a thing? Wouldn't that reduce it? Do people still
They
like
don't-
mentally do? Are you allowed to do this? You know, like when people do this thing. Are you allowed to do
Well,
that?
I do that.
You're allowed to do that. It's just looked down upon because you're set to more of a schedule rather than like, oh hey, you just go through stages, that kind of thing.
All right, then we go with time. We go with like 30 seconds tops.
Yeah.
30 seconds seems totally like I think
Adequate,
I feel like my make readies are kind of long and I think they're still shorter than 30 seconds. So,
Yeah.
Like that seems totally fine.
You go like this. You go like this, like that. Safety, like this.
And that
you
took
have
like
a whole,
4
like,
seconds.
20 seconds to think about it.
Exactly. So like 30 seconds is kind of a long time, honestly.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Sure.
Yep.
All right. What is your process to get better, and how do you implement it into practice and then back into the match?
That's a pretty open-ended one.
Yeah, this is a huge one.
Step 1, raw time champ the match. 2, use your video to figure out what you were doing wrong. 3, practice it to figure out how to solve that issue, and then bring it back into your next local match.
So
I don't think I have anything to add on top of that. That's pretty much it.
You actually might have hit the nail on the head, even though you were kind of, I think, half joking, but like, hear me out. So this was what I did in the past, and I think I kind of found the ceiling of this, and that it was like an artificially low ceiling where you go to a match and you take it really seriously and you just try to do your best, and you end the match and you're like, wow, I made few or maybe even no mistakes that match. And then you do that, 12 local matches of the year or whatever, and you don't really get that much better. And I think the key thing there was, even though I didn't make any scored mistakes, or very few half the time, the mistake was the time penalty that you had against other people who were going faster than you. So you really were making a mistake. It's just not immediately scored. So by doing the raw time champ thing, you no longer are making the time mistake, and you induce other scored mistakes. And I think that is key number 1, is inducing mistakes, because if you don't make mistakes, how can you know what to work on? So you go to a match and induce the mistakes by just making the time happen. And then you know what you have to work on. And so step 2 is go work on that thing in dry fire and live fire, and then rinse, repeat. So I think, that really is the secret formula.
I'd also add to that, more or less within reason, because if all you're doing is experimenting in raw time champ, that's really the only thing you know. You don't bring it back into a consistency portion, and you're not necessarily going to do well at your next major match.
Yeah, it's like not being able to handle the pressure when you finally get to a match that you care about that's a mistake in and of itself. So I think that's another mistake you can induce at locals by, okay, this local, I'm going to take this as seriously as if it were nationals. So I mean, I think that's the key, is force yourself to make all these different types of mistakes.
I'm gonna do that the next beginners match. Just be an absolute sweat lord and talk to nobody.
I mean, you'll probably end up taking it seriously if you do that.
True.
It'll be that much more painful when someone new beats you.
It's true. It was already painful. I shot 88. So they're like actual like people that shoot regular, like they just will shoot any match, right? So
Yeah.
I shot like 88% overall, and I was like, fuck me. Like I was like, wait, what was it? Was it a GM or was it a beginner?
All right. What is your favorite post-match meal?
Well, so it's Texas, so if it's hot outside, it's not anything like soupy, because fuck that.
But Coy, you're Viet.
Yeah, fuck that. There's no way. I remember one time, it was like 90 degrees out, and I was like, "Oh, let's go get some pho." And then we sat out in the sun when it was like 90 degrees, and we're all sweating buckets. Bless you guys for doing that, by the way.
Connor.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with barbecue.
Ooh, yeah. Can we start a religious war on podcasts? Like, what's good barbecue?
Oh man, I'm not actually that picky about I love barbecue, but like, I'm not super picky about it. I'll eat just about any barbecue, to be honest.
That's not religious at all.
Just name one. Just name one barbecue place here in North Texas. It doesn't matter.
Oh God, if I have to pick a favorite, you mean?
If you say Dickies, I might have to punch you.
I mean,
Dickies.
I'll eat Dickies, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie. But if I had to pick a favorite, it wouldn't be Dickies. It would. There's a place in Plano called Lockhart that's really good.
Okay.
I haven't been there in a while, and it's not cheap, but it's really good.
I'll take that as a good answer.
It's in downtown Plano.
Yeah.
If you haven't been there and you like barbecue, you should actually try it.
Any match, I'll totally smash an entire cart of dim sum. Okay.
All right. What do we got next?
Aggression. How do you train it both in dry fire and movement?
Ooh, this is
Don't
a
be
good
a
one.
bitch.
Yeah, it's don't be a bitch.
Sums it
But I mean,
up.
like it goes back to that whole process of getting better. You push to induce the issue, analyze it, and said, okay, this is what the issue was. This is how I fix it. And then my suggestion for movement is do the movement without the gun, like
That's a good one.
whether that's positional or even just acting out the movement of mechanics.
Okay,
So
I have a few
like
specific
reloads, draws, that
suggestions.
kind of thing.
So I have a couple specific things. And let me preface this by saying you have to be careful, but push the par times down in dry fire. So like I'm making this up. I can do a crisscross in 10 yards in dry fire at let's say 5 seconds. Set it to 4 seconds and make it happen. Now, the be careful part is you can't just go through the motions and throw the gun around because you're not actually going to help yourself. You have to actually do all of the like look at the spot, let the sights arrive to the spot, etc. You have to do all of that still, but just like force the times to happen. So that it kind of will shift your mindset of what's normal to a faster time. Another thing is if you think you're being aggressive, usually it feels like you're being way more aggressive than you actually are, particularly when it comes to like movement in stages and things or drills or things like that. So record yourself third person and then watch the video, and you're probably going to be like, wow, I thought I was sprinting, but I'm really kind of just jogging. So that helps. Similarly, like aggressive as far as shooting on the move, shooting in and out of position, shooting early when you get to position, blah, blah, blah. Record yourself because usually you're not doing it quite as well as it feels like, and you'll immediately see that on third person video.
I totally forgot to tell you this. I thought of you. So whenever I made G, so I practiced literally one classifier because I knew it was coming up on a classifier match. And so there's like 6 classifiers, and I was like, all right, we're gonna pick one of
Cheater.
these 6. No, for sure, 100% I did this, right? So I set it
I'm
up in my
just
garage
kidding.
and I like practiced it for a month straight, right?
Oh my
And I
God.
actually did exactly what you're talking about. So I found like what the 100% rate is, and I'm like, all right, go figure out what like the 120% rate is, and I practiced that for a month. So I missed the 100. So I was making it like 50% of the time, but when I was missing, I was still making like 105% GM. So I was like, fuck it, if we miss, we balling anyways.
Nice. Yeah, it
Yeah.
actually surprisingly works. But again, you have to actually do the thing that you're pushing the part time down on. You can't just go through the motions and be like, "Oh, I made it," but like realistically, you never actually aimed at anything.
Yeah. So I left myself trapped outside. I was like, if I can't hit like 10 runs, 100%, at least 100%, I'm like, we're doing 10 more. Yeah, it was bad.
Oh, so you more or less did like the bucket of dry fire ammo
Yeah,
thing.
it was bad too, because like, boy, reloading a fucking PC is not fun at all.
Any other ideas on being aggressive? I guess I would say just in general, like the whole like raw time champ thing works pretty good, where you're just like, okay, this is the competitive time ballpark for this stage, so like I am just going to make that time happen and see what breaks.
Let's push it a half second down. Let's try pushing it a full second down. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'd also focus on specific components of things. So like crisscross, you got aiming at a general big A zone as well as a tiny A zone, as well as the reload. Specifically focusing on the component as well as things that lead to making that component faster. So like
Yeah.
what was it? Like there's trigger break exit, right? Where you do break the trigger on the target and then move to another position. There is trigger break reload, where like your initiation is when you break the trigger and do a reload, that kind of thing, trying to get that faster. So
Yeah. I
the
remember.
small components.
Yeah. I remember Koi one time you described raw time champ as doing all of the unscored stuff, or focusing on not making any unscored errors or something like that. And that was what made it click for me. So if anyone's listening to this and didn't hear him describe it that way, maybe that'll help you. But I think, because I realize I'm saying, make the stage time happen and then see what falls apart. Well, that's kind of vague, especially if you don't know, like if someone like a legit GM or something doesn't shoot the stage right before you, so you know that time, like how do you know what the competitive time is? So I guess more specifically, run the stage how you think would be perfect for the unscored stuff, and then let the scored errors just happen. So if it's like, this section I need to shoot on the move and it needs to be a pretty quick move through this section, then make that quick movement happen. And then if you miss every single target you were shooting at on the move, then just, there, you found something to work on, keep going on the stage, etc. So maybe that clarifies that a little bit.
Do local matches matter when you're at A class and above? I think they still do.
I don't know why they wouldn't.
What does matter mean?
Yeah.
Like, is it worth the investment to keep going to local matches when you're at the A class level and above? So like, maybe you're just more invested, you're trying to get to more major matches, you've already classified higher. Is it really worth spending $30-$40 every weekend to go to a local match?
Every weekend?
You guys
I wouldn't go every weekend.
Or you guys get to shoot matches for 30 or 40 bucks?
How much do yours cost?
What are your secrets? No, man, like it's like a quarter a round. Like I'm just using a quarter a round, and you're like shoot 200 rounds, right? And so you're like $50 for ammo, and then you're like $30 for a match fee, and then like drive 10 million years to the range. I'm like, a local match is like $100, no?
Yeah, it probably is when you factor everything in. That's depressing.
I mean, if you just take,
never mind, it's not worth it. Don't do it.
I mean, maybe not necessarily like every weekend, or like maybe once or twice a month.
I think once a month is very reasonable. Maybe twice a month if you just are having a lot of fun. But I don't think from a growth perspective, twice a month is super necessary. I think once a month is a pretty good frequency. But I do think they're necessary because you might be thinking, even if you're the best shooter out there, which most people probably aren't, even if they're at A class, right? But so even if you're the best shooter out there and you're not going to be super challenged by anyone, it's still added pressure so you're getting experience with the match pressure on. You're getting experience where in practice, even if you try to put the pressure on yourself, it's not quite the same. So I think even if all you care about are the majors, that just like match experience is valuable at locals as well. Because so let's say a pretty full major schedule for us amateur guys would be like 6 majors a year. I mean, I've taken this game pretty seriously, maybe not this past year, but before that, and I don't know if I've ever shot 6 majors in a year. So that's a lot of majors. So like that's only 6 opportunities once every 2 months roughly to get match experience. So the local matches will help fill in those gaps.
I think it's also a case of just creating that confidence in yourself kind of thing. It's like, hey, this is what I am to my local competition. Where do I stack up? How can I improve against that person?
Mm-hmm.
Then again, it's still more of a time trial against yourself.
Yeah, and frankly, I mean, we have at least our area is pretty good, but we have a lot of M's in our area, and so even if you're like a solid M class shooter, at any given match, you probably have at least 1 or 2 people who can challenge you, if not more. So I think it's definitely worth going. Dazzy is by far probably the best shooter in. Yeah, Dazzy is probably by far the best shooter in Texas, at least that I'm aware of, and he still shoots local matches. So if nothing else, just blindly follow what he does.
Well, you have anything to add?
No, I mean nothing different than that. There's a lot of different reasons to shoot matches, like for fun, obviously.
Hmm.
I don't know that people above A class still remember how to have fun, but it's important for that. And then like just I think there's the probably like the mental aspect always gets to you, right? So in Texas, especially, like if you're trying to win Area 4 or whatever, like if you don't know how to hang in 100+ degrees for 6 hours, like you should probably shoot matches.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Lately there's been talk about like support hand grip positioning and like the whole thing about low grip where like you don't not really doing this super high close to the bore kind of grip, but it's like you're dropping that grip a little bit. If you're watching YouTube, then it'll be a little bit lower. But like, what's y'all's take on that? Because we see some shooters out there like Ben and Mason have their support hand grip a little bit lower than most other people. What's y'all's take on that?
I'm out of the loop on this. I didn't realize this was a
I
hot
know it's a
topic right now.
Yeah, I know it's a thing, but I legitimately do not remember how to hold a gun normally, so I definitely haven't been experimenting with like holding it lower.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I don't want to say it seems pointless to experiment with it, but I also wonder if like a lot of people are overthinking it. Like maybe like hold it so that the gun is feels secure in your hands and isn't moving around, and then I mean, at least in the past, my impression on this has been like the hand tensions matter more than where you actually place the hands. But I also don't want to totally write that off in case I'm
I feel like
missing something.
a lot of the argument around this has been around like using a small gun, but it's like you don't use a small gun for sport shooting, so what the fuck does it matter?
Oh, is that what it's been about? Okay, I haven't heard any of this stuff. I've been out of the loop apparently.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Calvin
don't.
posted something with some fancy, like what's the gun that cocks when you squeeze it? It's like real small.
Oh, the HK.
Yeah, yeah.
P7,
Yeah.
P7, P8,
So Calvin like has definitely smaller hands than I don't.
all
Here's my
three of us.
yeah, well, then all three of us, and it's like, and it's a small gun in his hands. So I think he was just using it to show like the grip, like it's you can recover the your shooting equally as well. And some people are like, no, you have to hold the gun so high all the time.
Oh, so it was more of like a what you can get away with type thing. I see.
I think it's
Yeah.
just, from what I could tell, it's just more of experimenting with grip kind of thing, and maybe a little bit of physics, because the closer you are to the fulcrum point, it's a little bit harder to control this moving mass. But the more away you are from something, the easier it is to move or resist something moving in the other direction. That's that's what I gathered out of it, but that's just me over analyzing things potentially. I think it's just, hey, figure out a grip that works for you.
I think there
Yeah.
was an important bit which could be lost somewhat is like even if you don't have a small gun, some people I don't have a handgun over here, but Matt, do that thing with the Glock again. You know how a lot of people do like the Vogel-esque grip, and I think they like they go for the thumb drive more than they go for like gun contact. You're probably a
So
bad example too because
that
you have
looked relatively
massive
normal.
mitts.
Yeah.
You have massive mitts, so maybe you're not a good example. But like you know how some people
You
go
mean
for
the
like
thing where people do
oh,
like, oh, let me see if
Oh,
I
then
can
like
yeah,
do like
they also
dang near like
can't do
that.
it.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm exaggerating it, but like they do that instead of just holding on to it like normal. They do
Exactly.
like yeah, I don't know.
It's like yes, you should hold on to a lot more of the gun if you're not.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say like there's nothing wrong with experimenting with that, but then again, I also think it's my opinion, at least having not experimented much with this, but it's my opinion that the tensions in your hand matter, and like locking your wrist matters a lot more than like physically where your hands land on the gun, as long as you're not doing something totally retarded.
And then you have people like me.
Well, yeah, and see, that's a good example. Like most people traditionally would be like, "Why are you wrapping your finger around the trigger guard? That's
I thought you were
retarded."
gonna say an example of a retarded person.
Well, yeah, but not for this reason. but, but no, like traditionally, most people be like, "That's a weird grip," but like it works for you, and it doesn't really matter that much because you've got your tensions figured out. You know. But I don't know. Don't listen. I'm kind of out of the loop on all this stuff lately. So if you want to experiment with that, I think why not? Do a
You also
6 month.
haven't, to be fair, you also haven't shot in like what, 3 months?
It's been a while. No, it's been more recently. But the last time I shot was a match, and then before that, it had been like 3 months. So, so it's basically been longer. But technically, I shot like a month ago.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't shot in a month and a half, so.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, I'm
Well, except-
brainstorming here,
It's
but
fucking
I do
yeah.
not know what's
It's
going on
opposite
right
way.
now.
I shot a
Yeah.
match like 2 weeks ago, and you guys haven't shot in fucking how long? Like, what the fuck is happening?
Well, I
Dude,
mean,
it's been
I shot this past weekend with like zero practice on a gun I'm totally unfamiliar with that I borrowed.
Well, I feel like we have a weird USPSA universe right now because at least up near us, like we had a handful of our usual local matches canceled for weather. Like we had like 3 of those XMGs canceled for weather in a row. Then there's also a lot of people that are kind of like meh on USPSA right now. So like, and that's been me a little bit, admittedly. So like sometimes I'm like, I'd rather not go to a USPSA match unless I really, really want to because just, the whole political nonsense. So I don't know. It's just a weird USPSA climate in Connor's world right now.
So you're not a Ken fan then?
I mean, man, I feel like we shouldn't touch on this.
It was so awkward. So last time I was up your guys' way, at one of the local matches, I remember somebody, I think it was Tim, had like he was doing signups, and then he had the endorsement form for Air Force director for nominations, and nobody would sign the fucking form. So fucking
I'm
awkward.
scared to now. If anyone asks me, like, because I thought Ken was gonna be like, I thought he was gonna continue to act like he had previously acted, and now I'm like, I didn't sign his, because I honestly just no one ever asked me. But now I'm like, if I had, I would have been kind of butthurt. Like, would have felt lied to. So now I'm like, if anyone asks me, I'm like, no, I may like you a lot, but get your own signatures. Like.
So the reason why Ken acts this way is because Connor didn't sign the form.
Well, he didn't ask, to be fair. Honestly, I probably would have had he asked, so I'm kind of glad.
All right. One last question.
Okay.
Confirmation, vision, how do you drive transitions? Okay. How do you drive transitions? How do you mix it in with confirmation? How do you do it?
Okay, I want to go first. You should not be thinking, how do I drive transitions? Like, in my opinion, at least, that is a fundamental you've already done yourself in if you're thinking about driving your transitions. So I think you need to think of it as like looking at targets in whatever order you want to shoot them in. If you start thinking about driving it, I think you're going to end up pushing the gun around and cause yourself more problems than not. So I think, at least for me, the like verbal mental cue is like snapping my vision between things. And then like, I literally don't think about moving the gun at all 99% of the time. Then what was the first part of the question? Confirmation?
How do you mix it together with sight confirmation?
Oh, so that part, I guess in practice that can kind of be difficult, but theoretically it's very simple. So if you think, I'm doing something, whether it's drawing my gun or shooting some other target or something, and then when I want to shoot some target, the next target, I'm going to just snap my vision to that target. The gun is naturally going to go to that target, and then depending on the difficulty of that target, I'm going to see some sight picture. So maybe the sight picture, if the target's 2 yards away, maybe the sight picture is me just feeling my arms pointing at that target. Or if it's a piece of steel 30 yards away, maybe the sight picture is like a dead still dot right in the middle of the calibration zone or whatever. So And part of that, I think, is experience, where you kind of get used to different types of targets at different types of distances and get experience just shooting and knowing what you need at different distances. So yeah, so I don't remember what they are, but does anyone, what are the confirmation, like 1, 2, 3 things? Like how are those defined again?
1, color. 2, it's the slash. Like you can see it bobbing and you know it's going to be there. And then 3 is like you have that still sight picture, careful press.
Okay, yeah, that's makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like in practice, it's hard to do, but like it's simple in to think about, where you just snap your vision to that target. The gun eventually will arrive there naturally, and then the confirmation part is how clear of a picture of things do I want to see before I smash the trigger.
I think I'm more or less there with you. Coy, anything you want to add? Anything else you want to say?
No, I mean honestly, like it's not that. This is one of those things where it's like the ability to overthink is definitely prevalent with people.
Yeah.
Don't like force it. It's not a thing you can force.
Yep. I mean, the question was asked by a software guy, so software IT. So
Oh, okay. In that case, I'll just change my answer slightly. It's like you're playing Valorant or whatever stupid gay like video game nerd shit people play these days. CS. It's like aim trainer. Like you don't push. Like you don't push your eyes when you play aim trainers, right? You just like you look at
look in
like
the
the little
spot.
aim trainer target, and your red goes there and you shoot. That's literally it. Don't overthink it.
Oh,
I guess one small thing is you need to figure out, I guess the hard part is probably A, executing this in a match, and then B, actually figuring out what level of confirmation you need for different targets. So I think go set up, like if you're totally new to this concept, and go set up a bunch of different targets in practice and pretty much just see what you can get away with as far as how clear of a picture you need to see of the gun in front of those targets. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not talking crazy.
not
Because
yet.
I think I think, well, at least because I kind of fell on the turtle end of the spectrum. Naturally, you can probably get away with a lot more than you think you can get away with if you're new. If you're like someone who's new to USPSA, you can probably, be a lot sloppier, especially on like closer paper targets than you realize. But you're not going to know that until you just go, all right, I'm going to try to just hose this thing, seeing just outline of the gun in front of the target. And, okay, well, maybe that was enough, maybe it wasn't.
Be happy.
That all of them?
Yeah, that's all the questions that are pretty relevant, other than tits and ass, that kind of thing. Have you shat in a bucket today?
Get
I mean, I live in
some
Houston,
weird
so yeah,
questions.
sure.
Oh, actually, this is not shooting related. Is your house still standing? Like, what is your situation down there after
You talking about the
there were
tornado?
all these
So
there were all
it's funny
these
as fuck.
storms, right?
It's funny as fuck. I did not even experience heavy rain,
Oh, good.
but
So one of my, I don't know where
north
in
of me, they're completely fucked up.
Yeah, so I don't know specifically where in Houston one of my old work friends lives, but his house was okay, but one of his neighbors' houses had the roof ripped off. And then he sent me a picture of one of those big metal power tower things that hold the power lines up, and it was
Yeah.
like just literally laying on its side. It was crazy. He was like, "Yeah, they don't think we're going to have power for a week." I don't know if that turned out to be not quite as bad as they thought it was. Maybe, I don't know if
No,
he has
it's real.
power today.
I heard some people
But
just got back power like yesterday, today.
God, that sucks.
I mean, Houston's
Wow.
basically third world country, so I mean that tracks.
Well, I'm glad your house is unscathed.
Any major
Well,
matches you guys are going to for the rest of the year?
I got Area 4 and Sons of Liberty Gunworks, which not really a conventional USPSA major. And then if you're randomly at Vortex Optics Rifleros match, Matt and I are going. And Calvin
Nice.
too. Connor,
That's
you should
cool.
get into this.
Yeah, but Calvin's not here.
I don't know why. It's just a combination of things, I think, but I am not feeling very motivated to go to any majors this year again.
Bro, you're coming up on your 1-year anniversary and you got a mortgage to pay off. I think you're okay.
Well, we're not going to pay off the mortgage, but hopefully we'll at least keep them off our backs for another year. Let's put it that way.
They say that right before you drop more cash on a pack of primers and bullets.
Dude, that's the other thing is I've been shooting so infrequently. I literally don't remember the last time I bought components, period, much less like the hard. Are primers even still hard to find? I don't know. I haven't even looked.
No, they're actually pretty easy to find now.
What's the going rate for small pistol primers right now?
Don't buy them from wherever. I got a line on group buy prices, so hit me up after.
Okay, I don't know if I'm in the market at the moment. But like if I got on Google right now and search small pistol primers, what's like the on demand rough price? Like not the hunt for a deal.
7 to 8 cents per primer.
Okay, so that's actually, I mean, that still sucks, but like
it's stabilized compared to like old 9-10 cent per primer.
Yeah, that's getting there. That's not too terrible.
I mean, honestly, you'll probably have a better deal walking into like a Shields, but other than that, it's pretty stabilized.
Nice. It's not 4 cents like it used to be, but that's okay.
Back in my day, yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, but yeah.
Majors I'm going to. I got that rifle match that I'm going to with Koi. I'll be at Space City Challenge, Area 4. Dragons Cup registration is opening up soon. Let's see.
Are you trying to go to nationals this year or no?
Not this year. I might try next year.
Yeah.
What else I got? Area 4, Red Dirt Rumble, which will be held in Oklahoma City instead of Tulsa because United States Shooting Academy kicked everyone out, basically. USSA, if you are confused. And I will be going to France for the Eager Cup over at EGCZ Academy.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, shit.
When is that?
That will be the first weekend of December.
Nice. That's exciting. We need to actually do a podcast before and after that. That might be the next one we do.
December pencil. I got a pencil.
Yeah, put that on your calendars, everyone. We're gonna have a doozy in December.
We'll record on December 24th.
Yeah, with any luck, we may even have 3 out of 4 of us again.
Honestly, at this point, we need a special guest.
I think we all qualify as special guests at this point. Okay. Thank you. Nothing else, right? We're all good?
Yay. Nope. I got you, Calvin.
Thank you for listening, everyone. Catch us next time at some undisclosed date.